Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. It is Election Day, and on everyone's ballot here in Texas, you will have 10 constitutional amendments to vote for. And joining us on the phones this morning, State Representative Dustin Burrows to talk about some of those amendments, and in particular, Proposition 4. Good morning, sir. How are you today?
Chad, I'm fine. Just headed to Midland for some work and pulled over so I could call in and remind everybody it is Election Day, and it's an opportunity to have everyone's voices heard.
Absolutely. And, of course, Proposition 4, it's probably, I don't know if controversial is the right word to use, but it's gained the most headlines out there. Representative Burrows, talk about Proposition 4 and what exactly it would do if people voted for Proposition 4.
Yeah, so Chad, I was a joint author of Proposition 4, one of only 4 who did that, and encouraging everyone to vote for Prop 4, which is a ban on the state income tax. What maybe not everybody recognizes, but probably does intuitively, is there's a lot of special interest groups that would like to see an income tax opposed in Texas. I mean, quite frankly, there's a cabal of people who, think they can spend your money better than you can. And we are trying to make it much, much more difficult to ever do that now or in the future. I, for one, believe that the Texas economy is strong. I know it's strong compared to the rest of the states. And part of the reason is we're a low overall tax state, low regulation state, and this is helping to permanently keep that, which is why I'm calling in to say, if you haven't voted, get out there and vote for Prop 4.
Well, you've got some of these groups that have been on social media, and I'm sure they've been doing some email campaigns, and they are saying that this would hurt education, that this would kill the business franchise tax, and it would overall just hurt the budget and education moving forward. What is your response to that?
False. For one, I wish it would kill the business franchise tax, but it doesn't. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. The tax is deterred a lot of businesses from moving here, but this will have no effect on that. And there's a other place in the code that makes sure those definitions are there. What I think is somewhat going on is people don't want to argue this on the merits of whether or not we should have an income tax now or in the future. So there's some political gamesmanship going on, some purposeful, confusing, misleading, rhetoric trying to encourage people to vote against Prop 4. And they shouldn't do that if they don't want an income tax. So, again, this is really about a lot of people who think they can spend your money better than you can. They want to impose a new tax at some point in time in the future on the state of Texas, not to lower any others, but to get more of your money. And this is an opportunity to prevent that from happening. Visiting
with Representative Dustin Burrows here on the Chad Hasty Show. Let me ask you this, and I'm not sure if you remember the exact vote count on this, but did Democrats vote for this?
Yeah, they did. It takes 100 votes to get a constitutional amendment, and some of the conservative Democrats from areas that are more conservative than others did vote with us because it's hard to argue. I mean, people are coming from other states to Texas because it's a business-friendly climate. We don't have a overall high tax burden. Now, property taxes are too high, and we do have some things we ought to change. But overall, we're a low-tax state, and that's good, right? It leaves people more money to save, to invest, businesses more money to expand and hire jobs with. And the reason we're growing is because of a lot of the philosophy we've had, and that was a bipartisan vote to get this done.
Yeah, and the reason I ask that is I don't remember this having that much strong of a pushback during the session. It seems as though the pushback has come up just within the last month or so.
Well, I'm glad we're seeing some of the pushback, right? It's the liberal media, the Austin American-Statesman and Dallas Morning News that are coming out against it, and the other tax and spend people. But it's also exposing, I think, something that a lot of us in Austin have always known, is there's a lot of special interests that want an income tax. And a lot of the groups pushing back on this and trying to defeat this measure, are really kind of showing their hand, which is deep down, they're hoping that someday they get more of your hard-earned money. And this is a way to stop it. And that's what this is really about.
You know, we just got a question from a listener, and this is something that I was asked even this morning when I appeared on another show. And here's the question. If it already takes a vote of the people to impose an income tax, why do we need to pass Prop 4 if voters already get to decide if they want an income tax in the future or not?
Great question. So they're talking about the Bullock Amendment, which is actually in the Constitution, which does take a vote of the people to get there. But what it does is it only requires a simple majority in both the House and the Senate. This raises that threshold to a supermajority. So we go from the House 76 votes to 100 votes, which makes it even more difficult. And I'll tell you, there's all the difference in the world between getting 76 votes and 100 votes on something this monumental. So it's extra protection. And also, you know, what this is it sends a strong message. You know, this sends a message that we do not want an income tax. So everybody who's running around saying, well, you know, if we had one, we could do X, Y, and Z, it tells them we're not interested, that we're still interested in being a conservative state. We're still interested in being a low-tax state, and it takes this off the table in the political debate. So it sends a political message, and it makes the threshold more difficult to get to in both the House and the Senate, which I think protects future Texans and future generations from becoming more like California or New Jersey.
Yeah, let's just say we had an income tax in Texas, you know, whether it's 10 years from now or whatever. What would that do to the state's economy, in your opinion?
I think it'd be terrible, right? I mean, all we would do is we'd end up having more revenue going into, you know, paying things, but it would leave less money in our pocketbooks, less money to save with, less money to spend with, less money for businesses to actually hire employees. And I'm one of those people who still truly believes, you know, in the market system, that you know how to spend your money best. There's more efficiencies we get out of it, and we want to keep money with the taxpayer. That's the overall goal, and that's the reason we have a healthy economy.
Do you like all the constitutional amendments that are on the ballot?
I like some more than others. I mean, I'll tell you that the Prop 5, dedicating funds to parks and wildlife, I think is much needed. I like having dedicated funds. The two other amendments that actually came through Ways and Means, so the Prop 4 we just talked about came through Ways and Means. The disaster reappraisals, Prop 2, came through Ways and Means, and I think it's very necessary. If somebody's homes or a community is devastated by flooding, tornadoes, or anything else, I think there needs to be readjustments. The property tax exemption for investments in gold bullion came through Ways and Means, and I strongly support all of those. I think they're very much needed and good things, and something that we could benefit from.
I want to ask you a question, and you know, we haven't spent much time on this one, but Proposition 10, and that's the one where the service dogs get to retire, right? With with their handler. Is that something that needs to be a constitutional amendment? Like, are we using constitutional amendments too much when these just need to be policy changes sometimes?
Yeah, I don't, you know, to be honest with you, I don't know the answer to that, whether or not we could accomplish it policy or not. But, you know, we get a ledge report, and it definitely said this was a way to do it. And, you know, from just a straight policy perspective, if we have service animals that have been in the care of somebody taking care, you know, maybe that is the best place for them. And I think that we should allow that to actually be done.
Yeah.
You know, if recollection, you know, serves me correctly, people did feel that it needed to be done in the Constitution because it is state property. And so this is the way it had to be addressed. But, you know, whether, you know, you asked me a very technical question, could we do it by a bill or does it need to be a constitutional amendment? And if recollection serves me correctly, because it's state property being given away, it would have to be a constitutional amendment, but I could be wrong on that.
Okay. All right. Very good. Representative Burrows, always appreciate your time today, and I want to remind folks to definitely get out there and vote and make your voices heard.
Absolutely. Vote yes, vote for Prop 4. That's my big ask.
All right. There you go. Representative Dustin Burrows, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.